initiative. Donald Trump is pushing Africa to the path of economic independence, from raw material producers to global powerhouse for trade. John Dramani Mahama, the president of Ghana, is using this initiative by Donald Trump to call African leaders to take a stand and to stop exporting raw materials to the West. Yes, you heard me right. John Mahama went a step further to accelerate the call for our colonial borders that divide us to be removed. I'll play you those clips. At the African Prosperity Dialogue and the AU Summit in Addis Ababa, a lot of things happened and were discussed at these two meetings. I will summarize it and play a short video of John Mahama. Not just a short video, but multiple clips, multiple short clips to seal all the points raised at the summit. And you will agree with me that African leaders are practically waking up by force. It is time for them to wake up. Let's get into it. But before that, let me put this on record. Permit me to put this on record. It's very important. Ghana is not a united nation. The nation of Ghana is very divided. Majority of my people are not patriotic. The only thing they care about is their individual parties. If an MPP party lover come here and listen to me speaking of something good done by John Dramani Mahama, because Mahama is NDC, the person will insult me and label me as NDC just because he feel like what I'm saying poses a threat to his party. Even if the thing will have positive impact on the nation, the person will attack me. No patriotism in them. If I'm speaking of something bad done by Mahama, the NDC guys will come here and insult me, label me as NPP. Even if the thing Mahama is doing is affecting the nation negatively, they love their individual parties more than the nation, and they cannot see anything without wearing political glasses. No patriotism in my people. So please, if you see insult in the comment because I'm saying something good that Mahama is doing, I'm begging you, ignore them. These are my country people, some of my country people. Some of them, so ignore them. I'm not standing for any particular party. I'm only standing with the development happening to the benefit of the continent of Africa. As we're speaking, Africa is standing at a defining moment in its economic journey. And in the first time in our history, African leaders have come to acknowledge this simple fact that for far too long, the continent has primarily been an exporter of raw materials, and we are benefiting little from the immense wealth of our natural resources. But with this strategic industrialization conversation, intra-African trade and digital transformation discussed at the African Union Summit and the African Prosperity Dialogue, if these are implemented, Africa can break free from economic dependence and emerge as a global powerhouse, as our leaders are trying to do now. Our leaders have somehow come to agree that this transformation will require ownership of resources, industrial growth, financial integration, and technological advancement. For the first time in a long time, African leaders put heads together to pull out 8 important initiatives to help Africa achieve real sovereignty. So let me list and summarize them for you. Number 1 is breaking free from the raw material trap. Africa has abundant natural resources, yet we remain a supplier of unprocessed materials while importing finished goods. This practically limits our economic growth and job creation on our continent. That's why we have joblessness everywhere. In Nigeria, there is joblessness. In Ghana, there is joblessness. To change this, our leaders have agreed that African nations must prioritize local processing and value addition, ensuring that industries within the continent manufacture finished goods. Mahama said it.
We must move beyond being exporters of raw material to become producers of finished goods. Whether it is cocoa in Ghana, oil in Nigeria, copper in Zambia, or diamonds in Botswana, we must process and add value to our natural resources. By so doing, we will not only increase our share of global trade, but also create sustainable jobs for our people, especially our young people. We must indigenize ownership of our natural resources.
Exactly what Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger are doing. Number 2, we need to strengthen intra-African trade. This is the key to economic growth. Despite our vast resources, Africa trades very little with ourselves. Only 15% of total trade is within the continent of Africa when you compare to the 60% in Asia, 70% in Europe. This must change if Africa wants to control our economic destiny.
The good news is that our destiny is in our own hands. The actions that we take today through decisive leadership and strategic partnerships will define the future of this dear continent of ours. One of the most transformative initiatives of our time is the African Continental Free Trade Area. It has the potential to create the largest free trade area in the world. And the African Continental Free Trade Area represents a game-changing opportunity for African businesses, entrepreneurs, and industries. However, trade liberalization in itself is not enough. We must invest in infrastructure to facilitate trade, efficient road, rail networks, ports, and digital connectivity. We must strengthen African supply chains to ensure that our industries produce goods and services that meet both regional and global standards. We must harmonize our trade policies to eliminate non-tariff barriers and reduce the cost of doing businesses across borders.
Number 3, we are going to have a stronger currency and financial independence. More intra-African trade will reduce dependence on foreign currencies like the US dollar and the euro.
We must fast-track the full operationalization of the Pan-African payment and settlement system to facilitate the payment for goods and services across our continent. If we commit to these actions, we can unlock a $3.4 trillion market, creating jobs and prosperity for millions of Africans across this continent.
If we are able to implement this unified financial system, it could make African economy less vulnerable to external shock, like what is happening right now as Trump is freezing aid to Africa and everybody is panicked. But at least it's making our leaders to think proper. They are now reasoning properly. they are brain open. That's what I'm trying to say. All right, I told you I'll be teaching you my native language small. All right, now we are going to have number 4, technological and infrastructure development. More trade among ourselves means better transport network. If we are trading more among ourselves, it will attract investment in rail, roads, and energy to facilitate trade. If we really want to do this as Africans, then it means we are going to have a lot of challenges. Let me list just four key challenges, and then let's look at the solution together. Number 1 is poor infrastructure. We don't have proper infrastructure that connect our nations together. No. So what is the solution? Invest in better roads, rails, and ports. Number 2, we are going to have trade barriers and tariffs. Mahama said it, remove the borders.
It is therefore a call to action, and that the decisions we make at this dialogue must not end in resolutions alone. Let us rise to this occasion and break down the barriers that divide us, and build an Africa that is strong, self-reliant, resilient, and globally competitive.
The solution is simple. Implement the free trade African policy to ease movement of goods. Remove these useless borders. Simple. Now, at the summit, African leaders expressed profound concern over the recent suspension of funding by the United States Agency for International Development, that is the USAID, all right? And this significant initiative by Donald Trump is actually impacting numerous health and social programs across the continent of Africa. The halt in the USAID funding jeopardizes critical health initiatives, including HIV/AIDS treatment, malaria prevention, and a whole lot of things that are added to it. And I ask myself, so without these people giving us medicine, we can't produce our own medicine. Whether we like it or not, it is time for us to start producing our own medicine. And so we love this initiative by Donald Trump. African leaders, let them be confused and be perplexed. We love the initiative. They will begin to think now. So because of the freezing of the aid, African leaders are now calling for self-reliance. Former Kenyan president urged African nations to view this situation of US freezing as a wake-up call to reduce dependency on foreign aid. And he stated that nobody is going to continue holding a hand out there to give you money. It is time for us to use our resources for the right thing. This US aid freezing is good news for us, Pan-Africans. Do you know what this is creating in Ghana's economy? This is creating $156 million in Ghana's economy. It's creating that gap in our economy. But what happened? Solution came. John Dramani Mahama, directed the finance minister to address and fill that gap, the $156 million funding gap. should feel it. For the first time, you see, our leaders are now genuinely deliberating on strategies to mobilize internal resources and strengthen this free trade among ourselves and to reduce reliance on external aid. This is a plus to us. Lovely people, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Let us not talk too much.
Ano kwamo mianka na awodi nipa pina ekwate timu pao amani pampempema wale agu odia sampa spiritual and herbal center awo wama yade se wombe muwenya basisi a yade bi tise stroke gonorrhea anabama waye mre e wampamu low sperm count wamu wanu adro tatahwe ene je sam se sabane sunsumu nsama wamu telete se ye sunsumu aware anasa yare bi ne de amawo pampabone anabo ana wanya abai amane e court case wobetu charge osisi a enam omadwuma panti ni pampempem ene befo bukofie ekoye sunsumu nyuma edemom se mosini ene enzimani akabom dia sunsumu niama asie betu obi aje wukunu anasa woyere awaresem adwumasem akwantuom nsem nina ayasumasem fabadan odia sampa spiritual and herbal center obehuyan of
New Koforidua ejoso ne konongo infinfin aye Ashanti region ehon ma number aye didi dwuma no aye 054 330 4976 anase 020 134 0421 054 330 4976 anase 020 134 0421
Odia Sampa Spiritual and Herbal Center. You be do us some amount.